What's happening, people? Back with another reaction and back with some more Peter Gabriel. And we're returning for the final track on his 1977 One or Car album. Thank you again to Phil, and it's called Here Comes the Flood. So, the flood is a very definite reference to a particular flood. And of course, in many different cultures around the world, there is a part of their origin myth or their early history as reported by scribes of millennia ago that there was a global flood or a flood of the most dire significance, sometimes with supernatural origins. So I wonder if it could be in relation to that level of cultural understanding of a flood. Of course, it could just be a flood of feelings, a flood of experience, a flood of noise, a cacophony. There's many possibilities for the phrase the flood, but the use of the definite article the had me thinking about more historical and or cultural or indeed mythological understandings of that term or that phrase, I suppose. But yes, I wonder, it certainly sounds like it's in a calm before a flood, meaning if you're saying here it comes, then it has not yet arrived, although it is perhaps within sight, whether again we're talking more literally or figuratively. But yeah, it sounds like dangerous times are afoot, though obviously the degree to which the phrase the flood is literal or figurative could greatly affect that. And I expect on some level us to be dealing with metaphor in this regard, but I'll see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Peter Gabriel, the track is Here Comes the Flood, and it's the final tune on his 1977 album, which seems to be alternatively called Car or One.
When the night shows, the signals grow on radios. All the strange things, they come and go as early warnings. Stranded starfish have no place to hide, still waiting for the swollen Easter tide. There's no point in direction, we cannot even choose a side. I took the old track, the hollow shoulder, across the waters. On the tall cliffs, they were getting older, sons and daughters. The jaded underworld was riding high. Waves of steel, of metal, at the sky. And as the nails sunk in the cloud, the rain was warm and soaked the crowd. Here comes the flood. We'll say goodbye to flesh and blood. If again the seas are silent and any still alive, you'll be those who gave their right to survive. Dreams, you're running dry. When the flood comes, you have no home, you have no warmth. In the thunder crash, you're 1,000 miles within a flash. Don't be afraid to cry at what you see. The actor's gone, there's only you and me. And if we break before the dawn, they'll use up what we used to be. Lord, here comes the flood. We'll say goodbye to flesh and blood. If again the seas are silent and any still alive,
What a powerful and dramatic and compelling end to the album. And sonically, there's a lot going on here. We have these supporting organ chords, very almost like church organ sounding, these big drum fills and rolls, including some right at those transition moments that almost sound like they're an expression of like a thunderclap that you might hear, which he does talk about in the beginning of the tune. And then, of course, there's some more like true piano work. There's these big rocking guitar lines, a bit of them, or some of them sounding a bit bluesy, but also like a bit, not like stadium rock, but like what we would perhaps call classic rock, meaning there's like some moments where it reminded me of like if you put Freddie Mercury's voice in, I could believe it was a Queen tune. And yet there's moments also where it's like very soft and intimate, his vocal delivery very like sweet and tender in the opening, and then even going into, I don't know if it was technically falsetto, but like really high, like beyond that. And then also with a bit of power in the like chorus sections where everything, rises up a little bit. But there were lines like right at the beginning about like radios, and I want to say there was something about like a shoulder, which like the shoulder of a road maybe. I'm talking about something like near the shore. Like there are multiple things that I heard at the beginning where I was thinking like, okay, like, this sounds like it's modern times, but then it began to get very like metaphorical, like waves of metal up by the cliff sides and these old cliffs, and there were different lines that sounded very like figurative, metaphorical, perhaps even scriptural. And then he was talking about the clouds and the thunderclap with like 1,000 lines and a flash, and I'm like visualizing these extreme weather moments. And then he's talking about the actual sea, like someone's still alive, and then so it's like, wait, are we really talking about like a biblical level flood, or at least a flood of mythological proportions? So like lyrically, I really don't know what's happening overall, but it sounds like maybe there's some different figurative meanings mixed with some very specific or like detailed visual references all being brought together, maybe in a cataclysmic or a catastrophic way, but it sounds like there's maybe people surviving this, or there is some like human individual significance within this grander scale that the tune seems to play out on, which again feels like it's on that scope both lyrically and sonically. And yes, I love the progression, the shifts in the tune. It goes big, it goes soft and tender. There's some really like dynamic transitional moments along the way. And the organ again behind everything gives it this sort of grand feel, and I can feel the sea rising up. And then it ends with this sort of like fade, including of that organ. And it's like, wow, like what a completion, what a conclusion to the record. So yeah, again, I don't really know what's going on here, but a very powerful tune overall, and its impact or my feeling as I hear it for the first time. So curious to hear what people have to say about this one. Thank you again to Phil. In the moment, I'm forgetting what the 2 album is, what other term it might be known by, presumably given whatever image is on the cover, but I'm looking forward to it because, again, I only knew the tiniest bit about Mr. Gabriel, and it was mostly just that he was like the earlier singer of Genesis, a group I came to know from the Phil Collins lead singing era, which is to say songs like, That's All, and The Way You Walk, or The Way I Walk. Like, I just heard a couple tunes when I was growing up in the 80s/90s, and I, remember like, oh wait, they had an earlier singer, like Peter Gabriel? Okay, so that was in my head. But to now hear some of his solo stuff and going through a full album, it's like, wow, okay, we're dealing with like, not only a creative artist, but an artist who doesn't sound like a lot of other people, which is always something interesting to me. And to be fair, there's nothing wrong when there's like a genre where there's a number of bands where like you could hear it being one or their other tunes, to swap out the singer. I don't think that's necessarily bad if you like that sound, if you like that genre. And yet at the same time, I do very much appreciate an artist where it's like where they're just kind of off in their own lane doing stuff that, it's very distinctly and eccentrically their own. So that's what I've come to feel about Peter Gabriel, having gone through one of his proper albums. Looking forward to more. Let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.